young people. And then we wanted to sort of look at how we could take the benefit of working at the Commonwealth level to think about some of the steps that we could focus on, really to think about how countries can look at removing some of the barriers to women engaging in the political space from within their political systems. We might say a little bit more about that as we go forward, but working particularly around a gender perspective in the work of local governments or ministries of local government, and really improving gender sensitivity and awareness in local governments and local government associations. And then, as I say, really thinking about our role as a Commonwealth body and as a kind of broker and partner to our members, to think about how we can gather best practice, good practice, share that and replicate that. Very much what we're doing today, but also how we can advocate towards Commonwealth bodies to encourage greater representation of women at the local level. And also really thinking about how we can monitor progress towards gender equality at the local level and use some of the existing targets. So for example, SDG 5.5.1 on women in local government, but also how we can monitor in perhaps slightly more granular terms some of the developments and trends in local government. And that network is largely an opportunity to bring people together online. Almost we see it as a kind of network of networks. So linking primarily through local government associations, and many of our local government association members are on the call today. So I think that's probably all I need to do in terms of just a very quick introduction to who we are as an organization and the sort of work of the network and the way in which we're trying to use the network to really strengthen our impact on this work. And as an organization, we're set up really in different kind of levels. I've obviously mentioned that we're a Commonwealth body. We do have a head office which is based in London, which really is the kind of like the hub of the work that we do. But I think recognizing the fact that it's important that we're close to our members and we're able to kind of respond quickly to our members. We also have a network of regional program officers, which I'm sure many of you will have been in touch with already. And we've set up to kind of steer and give a strong direction to the Commonwealth Women in Local Government, a steering committee, which is drawn partly from our staff and also partly from political leaders from around the Commonwealth. And it's chaired by the Deputy Minister of Local Government from South Africa, Honourable Nkadime. And then, of course, we have the network, which is, as I've said, cross-Commonwealth. It brings together political leaders, but also people working on the administrative side of local government. We have identified a series of local government association focal points so that we can reach out and partner closely with our members. And then linked to that, we have a Commonwealth Women in Local Government Facebook page, which I know many of you are already using. A great way, I think, to share, but also to contact other women working in the local government space, and also a regional WhatsApp group so that we can be in closer touch. So, really trying to cascade that lessons both across the organization through our members, but then back into the advocacy work that we do as an organization at government level, but also through the Commonwealth. And most recently, of course, through the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which happened in June of this year. And of course, the Commonwealth Women's Forum, which we were very pleased to be able to take a small delegation to. So just a little thumbnail sketch of who we are and the genesis of this meeting, and of course the objectives that we're trying to address. And we would encourage you to use Twitter to tweet from the meeting using our kind of hashtag COMLGN. Yeah, let's make this as interactive a meeting as we can. So the next job that I have is to hand over to Janine, who is of course the coordinator of the network. She is the person who's brought us all together at this event. And she's going to just tell us a little bit about some of the work towards developing the digital tools that we're going to be talking about today. Janine.
Thank you, Lucy, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As Lucy has said, my name is Janine Xavier-Cross, and I'm the Senior Program Officer that's responsible for networks in CLGF. Today, what we're doing is we're providing an opportunity for you to hear about two different sets of tools, those that were developed through the Commonwealth Local Government Forum. And we've also invited the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to share on tools that they were able to also develop. We also have some panelists from a range of different organizations to bring perspectives on a roundtable discussion around the tools that we will discuss today. So in general, all the tools that have been developed are to support women's inclusion in politics. The tools that were developed through CLGF were actually developed with support from the European Union as part of an agreement to focus on empowering local authorities for enhanced governance and for more effective development outcomes. You know, we recognize that technology continues to transform the engaging and the learning environment. And as women's personal and their professional lives become more and more reliant on the digital platforms and the tools that are out there, we, CLGF, through the local government network for women, the Commonwealth Women in Local Government Network, supported the development of these tools. Generally speaking, the tools support implementation of gender and local governance training and navigation of the increasingly dominant world of social media. The mix of tools that you will hear about today use digital technology to increase the reach of capacity building programming, and they enable more women to focus and to be able to join and to advance in local government. The tools are resources. They are resources created just to support you, our membership, as you work to continue to reduce the barriers to women entering. Just a reminder for everyone to put your mics on mute. Thank you. So as I was saying, the tools are actually resources to help you as you continue to work to reduce the barriers to women entering and advancing in local government. They can be used to support implementation of targeted programming and for capacity building through the women's networks in local government associations, in the local government authorities, in the government ministries that are all here, and as well through partnerships with other institutions that may be providing gender-focused or gender-tailored support to local governments across the Commonwealth. The range of tools that we've created through CLGF and the European Union, they can support your existing training programs, and they also provide opportunities to enhance the capacity of those persons who are responsible for championing women's inclusion within your own organizations. So today you're going to hear about some of the experiences in implementing these tools in varying locations across the Commonwealth. You'll be exposed to a broad cross-section of tools, and you will have a chance to explore how applicable they can be in your own context. Next slide. So why digital? Why digital tools? Why are we going in this direction? In this new era, we realize there are so many benefits. Digital tools provide mechanisms to broaden access to knowledge and education while equipping women in local government with the skills that they need to help them succeed both now and in their future careers in local government and in the local government arena. With our young people, they speak, they function, everything they do is digital. So these tools really promote youth engagement and outreach. They also provide increased affordable and easily accessible access to knowledge and education, and they also support collaborative learning. With the broad range of needs and the locations of women interested in local government across the Commonwealth, it's very important to kind of develop tools which can make participation in women and participation of women in politics much more efficient, much more consistent, and much more effective. So the digital tools and the online tools enable increased collaboration. They promote communication, digital literacy, global awareness, and creativity. The list goes on. Incorporating digital learning techniques have so many benefits, even in local government training and empowerment programs. they can enrich the learning process, and they can provide much more access to opportunities for learning. Tools here are accessible for men as well as for women. We always remember that men play a very key role as advocates in the journey for gender equality. On the social media side, they support storytelling, enabling women to tell their stories in an authentic way, and they are able to market themselves much more effectively and efficiently. Digital tools equalize the playing field for women's participation. Tons of benefits. At the same time, there will also be tons of challenges that can be faced in implementing these tools. But as we go through this discourse today, we will have a chance to assess them, to appreciate the value of all tools, and have a chance to take away from this session what we hope would be a fresh and exciting energy to begin exploring and incorporating these tools into your own capacity development programs. And with that, Lucy, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks very much, Janine. And that's a really nice kind of segue, really, to say that these are very much kind of your tools. They're very much accessible to all of our members. They'll be on our website, and we would really encourage you to use them and think about how they can be valuable in your context and in your experience. And we've got three speakers now coming up, really just to tell us a little bit about the tools that we have available and what the tools have been designed really to do. Because of course, as Janine has said, you know, the tools are a vehicle. They're a kind of method to impart information and to support women in leadership. So our next three speakers are going to really look at the tools, who was involved in developing those tools, the kinds of things that the tools were designed to address, and how they have been and they are being implemented. Obviously, if you have any questions, do feel free to chip in. And as I said before, if you have links to tools that you're using that you think would be relevant to this conversation, please also feel free to share them in the chat. Now, the first tools we're going to look at were developed under the South Asia Wall module and also in some work that CLGF did in Pakistan. So to introduce this set of tools, I'm going to hand over to Claire Frost, who most of you know is the head of programs here at CLGF and has worked very closely with colleagues in both India and Pakistan to develop these tools. So Claire, over to you.
Thanks very much, Lucy.
On 7 minutes, Claire.
Thanks very much, Lucy. Great. So I'm very pleased to be here to be able to talk to you about these two sets of tools that we have developed. As Lucy was saying, with our partners both in India with the Resource Support Center for Development and the Local Councils Association of the Punjab. Just a minute, sorry. So maybe just to give a little context on the South Asian environment to begin with. So women's political representation in South Asia has really been traditionally quite low. There are some significant challenges in the region to women's political engagement, as well as kind of the more general challenges that women face across the board in terms of political inclusion. So there's societal challenges. You know, we're facing really quite patriarchal societies. There's very much this societal view of women as carers, women in the home, so women not being in the public sphere. And then there's significant economic disparities. So women often don't have access to the same kind of funding that male politicians may have. There's policy challenges in terms of policy gaps where national policies don't recognize some of the roles that women need to play that make it very difficult for them to then engage in public life. And then there's issues around proxy power centers. So power not necessarily being centralized in those institutions where women have the ability to engage. And then, of course, there's political challenges. So, you know, political parties that are unsupportive, the issues around character assassination, which we see in many different regions, but also, you know, the threats of violence or politics being quite a violent environment, and then limited opportunities for networking, or maybe different opportunities for networking. So to combat this, many of the countries, in fact, all of the Commonwealth countries in the region, have brought in quota systems for women, as you can see in my little table below. However, this does bring with it other challenges. This kind of second tier of political process where, you know, often women are not as confident in the political sphere, and maybe in some cases people consider those as not full councillors in the same way as councillors who are elected in a different way. So we worked at the regional level with our partner RSCD. We've worked with them in numerous projects, primarily in India, looking at increasing women's political inclusion at the village level. So to better understand the political process and to better understand, you know, the capacities that they have to interact with the political process and have the confidence to act with the political process. So within this kind of phase of our funding, what we looked at was synthesizing a lot of the lessons from the on-the-ground experience that we'd had into something which could be a more universal training manual. And that's the WAL manual, the Women as Local Legislators Self-Mentoring Module for Elected Women Representatives. Now, it's made up of 32 training lessons, which look at cultural, social, political, and economic challenges faced by women. And these tools can be used individually, so just as a one-off worksheet, or they can be used as kind of a set of tools to look at kind of a more prolonged investment in capacity building. They can be used individually, but they are designed and they work better for group work. And they've been used both in a digital environment, but also in a face-to-face environment. And while the process was led by our partners in India, our members from across the region also fed into the development of those tools. So they look at 4 different focal areas. So looking at the self, looking at the kind of things which are about gender stereotypes, double standards, you know, self-reflection and development, also addressing barriers and broadening personal perspectives. They look at the family, so really thinking about the family as that first unit of democratic decision-making and how to increase equality and democracy within the family and nurture an environment which is supportive for political inclusion. Then, of course, they look at the constituency, which is about reaching out to people and strengthening the supporter base, you know, making sure that women are included in decision-making and participatory democratic practices. And then they look at the institutional level. So really understanding how local government systems work and what levers are there that can be used to increase political inclusion. So as you can see, they're kind of laid out in these 4 sets, and there's different lessons, which then have different focal areas. And that's the same across those four thematic areas. And I wanted to just take a minute to show you one of these tools. So I thought the tool on the public manifesto was a nice one to look at. So as you can see, there's an approximate amount of time that you would spend on this. It sets out the objectives. It provides a link to, in this case, a digital tool, so a short video, which explains the core elements of the constituency manifesto. But in other tools, it could be a case study or it could be an exercise that you're asked to go through. And then it explains a little bit the process and asks for a reflection on, you know, the tool or the exercise, you know, what did we learn from this video, what's applicable in your context, and then a process of kind of summing up and what have we learned. So I wanted to show you just a short extract from this video to show you a little bit more interactively how that works. But I don't seem able to. This is why.
Here we go. It's coming.
Here we go.
हो, बरोबर. हा गावाचा सामुदायिक जाहीरनामा गावातल्या प्रत्येक वॉर्डमधील लोकांच्या प्रश्नांचं, मुद्द्यांचं प्रतिबिंब असतं. आपण निवडून आलो तर कोणत्या प्रश्नांना हात घालू हे लोकांना सांगण्यासाठी आणि आपल्या कामाची दिशा ठरवण्यासाठी सुद्धा असा जाहीरनामा लोकांसोबत करणं खूप महत्त्वाचं आहे. आपल्याला आपल्या कामातून कोणती मूल्य आणि संदेश लोकांसोबत पोहोचवायची आहेत ह्याचा सुद्धा अंतर्भाव.
So that's just a little clip. I just wanted to show you a little bit what the videos actually look like. Just to go back, because I also want to touch on the other tool very, very quickly, the other tools that we worked on. So we'll make available all of the different tools and this, the guiding kind of a toolkit on our webpage. But I also wanted to just very, very quickly touch on the work that we did in Pakistan, which was part of an EU-funded project, which looked at strengthening local councils associations and worked with the local councils associations to develop women development committees, to support them in developing strategic plans, and then to deliver training to them. And I think what was especially interesting was the range of digital tools that were developed as part of that process. So newsletters, but also beginning in the COVID period, online training sessions, which then evolved into something which for Pakistan was quite innovatory, which is the Local Councils Association TV channel on YouTube, where there is a specific channel, a specific section, which is on women in local government. And then they also did a focus on some digital literacy training for women in the Women Development Committee. So looking at how they can use the online space to better advance their political process. So I just wanted to share with you the 3 key takeaways that we had from the development of these tools. So really, the use of digital tools has allowed CLGF to reach a wider membership. Of course, we're still aware of the digital divide, and we're really focusing also on how to further address that. But with the access to mobile phone technology increasing, it really has become a very powerful tool to spread even to the grassroots level. Then I think another takeaway was the multimedia element of the tool. So really providing kind of different kinds of modes of being able to interact with the learning, be it case studies, videos, worksheets, to really allow people to digest the information in different ways. And then finally, the importance of networking and how this kind of joint learning allows women to build a network that they can then go back to and rely on. So it's not just kind of a one-off training or a one-off interaction with the tool, but it does really build that wider network of support for women. So that was just a whistle-stop tour. I'll stop there. Thank you very much. And I think we can hand over to our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Claire, for that and for kicking us off and getting us really into the nitty-gritty of the tools. I'm going to move us straight on to our next speaker, who is Christopher Granston. He's the CEO of an organization called Impetus Creations, and he worked very closely with the Association of Local Government Authorities in Jamaica on an initiative to develop social media tools for women leaders in Jamaica. He has a background in also in public relations and working with the Jamaica Labour Party in the Maypen West Division of Jamaica. So he's kind of, I guess, brought together all of those skills together in terms of working with the association team in Jamaica to support this initiative. So Christopher, over to you.
Greetings, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Great.
Okay, so let's quickly get through this presentation. Can you please go to slide 4? So, no, can you please go back? Go back 1 slide. That's it. No, the previous, the one after this. Okay, great. So, I am Christopher Granston, CEO of Impetus Creations. And for this project, our goal was to increase the use of digital technologies and software applications within local government, particularly amongst women councillors, as a means to strengthen their social media literacy and communication skills in promoting participatory democracy, and to better the position of to better position women as change agents by targeted social media campaigns to promote inclusive democratic systems. Now, what this simply means is that your digital footprint in this day and time is important. It's social media is a consistently shifting landscape where things don't remain the same. Everything changes at a whim, and that is the same for your public image. It's very important to develop a specific public image that speaks to your target audience at large in a positive way, and also leave room to kind of grow as the landscape of the world and economic situations and the faces of different companies, corporations and foundations that you may be a part of change as well. So it's not something that stays the same from landscape to landscape. And that also presents a bit of a challenge. And the primary challenge is to keep your image positive, right? So the thing is that we wanted to teach the counselors essentially how to manage their own public image, their own digital footprint, and also put out content that is creative, beautiful, and meaningful. It's a form of self-expression, right? It's not just to hire a social media specialist to basically translate what you want, but to give you the skills to translate it yourself, or at least to better manage the situation of somebody working with graphics, content, things that may represent you. It's a way to, it gives you the skills to better manage a situation like that, right? So slide 5, please. During the training session, we had a few challenges, right? And one of the challenges is the consistent change of social media. We are at the cusp of a very big paradigm shift when it comes to social media. As most of you know, Facebook isn't necessarily Facebook anymore. It's Meta now. There are enduring trends that comprise all social media platforms. And finally, social media has come to a place where those enduring trends have begun to stabilize in a way that we can view them, understand them, and manipulate them to our benefit, right? There are always issues in remote learning. A lot of the female counselors were far apart in different parishes in Jamaica, so it was particularly difficult to get them together, but they participated as best they could. A lot of them put out maximum effort, and they asked questions and participated the best way they could consistently. This gave rise to the need for support provisions, essentially, right? Because what happened is that with them being so sparse and so far apart, there rose a necessity to develop a support system. And how you do that is essentially how you would craft an online course, right? So you would create digital tools, PDFs, videos, training content that would be on demand and easily accessible to them, that yes, they would go through the training course content, but they can also revisit this content in their free time. And that's how we kind of remedied the entire situation of them being so far apart. Now, can you please go to slide 6? Now, what we pretty much developed here from a survey report, we needed to find out exactly where the counselors were in terms of their knowledge of social media. We needed to find out where they were in terms of their knowledge of social media. From there, we assessed those needs, and we produced guidelines for the use of social media, because there was a lack of information on how essentially to stay on social media, because you know that at this point it's very easy to get removed if you say the wrong thing or post the wrong type of content, right? So there were guidelines as to how to deal with social media platforms in general, decorum, etiquette, how to post properly, what to look out for, like dangers, things of the like. And those guidelines were essentially set in place so that you would avoid getting flagged, demonetized, or banned, right? So there were editable Facebook slides. One of the problems is that individuals don't know how to properly design their graphics or what the rules are to create stunning content. Social media is a visual revolution. It is all about the visuals, right? Because people see photographs before they read your text, or the photographs is what pulls you in to have interest to read the text. So there were templates created to essentially help with designing things in the right aspect ratio so that you would get the highest quality on social media. There were also printable user manuals. These were set in place so that it's a step-by-step how-to process to guide participants through various mechanics of social media, all of the major platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter, right? So how to post, how to leave a comment, basic things like that, but things that they could get on demand and go through in their own time, right? There was also the training workshops that if they were able to attend, they would have gotten real-time exposure as to how to manage and how to manage their social media platforms, essentially. Excuse me. Right, so we would show them in a practical sense through video how to manage their social media platforms. Right? There was also AlgaJ YouTube channel that was created. We uploaded 29 tutorial videos with lessons for all the major platform mechanics, as well as experiences from the female counselors. They did individual interviews and gave information about their personal leadership styles and their personal experiences. And that was probably the most fun part of the project. It was really refreshing to hear their point of view and interesting to hear their stories of how they became counselors, how they became leaders, right? They're very inspirational stories, and I would encourage everybody to go and watch them, right? Beautiful work. Can you go to slide 7, please? So this is essentially a part of the digital toolkit. These are the templates, and what you have here is just essentially graphics, of course, but different aspect ratios that you should design at, and also what the content and subject matter of each should entail. But it's essentially a campaign promoting empowerment, female empowerment, awareness of, I guess, some of the qualities of a counselor in local government, a female counselor in local government. But it essentially just functions as a template that you can do anything with. It gives you a platform, an example to pretty much expand upon in your own way. So can I go to slide 8, please? Right. So this is the social media guidebook, guidelines for using social media. So it explores a brief history of social media platforms, laws and responsibilities surrounding freedom of expression, rules and safety tips for using social media, and information on copyright to prevent flagging, demonetization, and banning. There are also training manuals that are step-by-step guide to the mechanics of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It explores the how-tos of posting, messaging, scheduling, content, and insight and analytics. And that is essentially important in the growth of your social media platform. It is very essential that you get information about trends and opportunities that exist in the social media landscape, as well as you need to know where you are. You need to know your demographics. Social media now provides all of that. What percentage of your platform is male versus female, who you should be targeting to. There are various analytics websites like Google Analytics that can give you more in-depth information on how to market to certain demographics. So all of these was explored in the course content as well as in the training manuals. And it's important to know things like this. It is important to know to grow your platform, to grow your voter base, things of the like.
Christopher, I'm going to have to ask you to try and start to wrap it up because we've got another speaker still to hear. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If you could try and just use this last minute or so.
Just so can you go to slide 11, please?
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. So 11. Slide 11. Yeah. So essentially, these are the most important aspects of it. Some of them have been remedied. Some of them will be an ongoing process, right? Entities such as AGA and CLGF Caribbean must play a more integral role in social media engagements, such as post and online campaign development support for elected women. And this is essentially, it's very important that you create these campaigns to build awareness, right? Most elected women don't have a dedicated social media platform to facilitate representational duties and responsibilities. People need to know what's going on in your constituency, in your neck of the woods, what's going on there, what can I participate in, how can I help you where you are, right? Generational bridge building between senior and junior elected women can inspire the other women to get involved in the political arena, and inspiration is really important. It is important that those within the political sphere inspire those who are in the upcoming sphere, not only but inspire them, but guide them through the process, make things easier. So thank you.
Christopher, thank you very much. And what a great way to kind of finish on that note of inspiration. And I think that's such an important part of what we're trying to impart generally in terms of these tools. So thank you for that. So that's another of the tools that CLGF has been involved in supporting. And we're going to hear from someone who's been on the other side of the of that kind of training shortly. But first, I want to introduce our next speaker, who is from her name's Stephanie Hoey. She's the project manager of something called CanWill, Canadian Women in Local Leadership, which she's going to tell us a little bit about, I think, so I won't steal her thunder. And she is based in an organization which will be familiar to many of you, a member of CLGF called the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So without further ado, Stephanie, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I really appreciate it. And I'm really grateful to be among everyone today. And some people were complaining about the rain. Well, we're dealing with snow. So for those of you who have warm weather, please go out and enjoy some heat for me. I miss it terribly. So yes, I manage the project called Canadian Women in Local Leadership. And just to give a little bit of context, in Canada, we have not yet attained parity in representation. We did recently just have a whole slew of local elections in different jurisdictions. So we're hoping to have some updated statistics soon. But roughly we're looking at about 36% of our councillors being women and about 20% of our mayors. So we still have a lot of work to be doing still here in Canada. So hopefully that will help situate things a little bit better. If we could go to the next slide. I wasn't sure how familiar people would be with FCM. So I just really quickly wanted to touch on who we are as an organization. We are a national organization of municipalities. There are over 2,000 members. I I did want to point out that there are about 80% that are rural, remote, or northern communities. And so many of these communities don't have the same sort of resources that many of the larger communities might have. And so this allows us to have kind of a bit of a difference between large urban centers and smaller rural areas that many of you will be also very familiar with. FCM does a lot of work advocating to our national government, so the federal government, about municipal interests. We do a lot of work in convening of local leaders, building local capacity. And I did want to highlight that we work on projects both domestically, which is the project I'm doing. So I'm going to be giving you an example of work that's being done within Canada to promote women's leadership. We also have a lot of really interesting work being done internationally. And so I do hope that others will get a chance to hear from my colleagues at another learning opportunity. Next slide, please. So briefly, CanWIL, so Canadian Women Local Leadership, is a 3-year project. It's funded by the Department for Women and Gender Equality out of the Canadian government. And it's really aiming to increase the participation and the retention of women in municipal leadership by supporting more diverse, inclusive, equitable environment for the governance processes. I highlighted a little bit about the discrepancy about where we're at in terms of women's representation. If we start looking at things from a more intersectional lens, our women's representation, if we're looking at Indigenous women, Black women, racialized women, young members, or members of the 2S LGBTQI plus community, it's even less representative of the Canadian population. And so we've really tried to do deliberate attempts to look at what are some of the barriers and the systemic issues that are preventing women in general, but also women from each of these particular groups from really being able to assume leadership positions and thrive in those leadership positions. So next slide. So for those of you who like logic models, very quickly, the goal is at the top there, same as what was on the previous slide, but we've really broken it down into 2 sides of the coin. One is focusing on activities to increase women assuming leadership positions. And then the other is flipping on that enabling environment, because what we really found was that many of the barriers that exist for women to assume leadership positions still remain once they are in elected positions, but now they have the weight of the constituents' expectations, as well as all those other barriers. So we're trying to tackle those enabling environment pieces so that once a woman assumes that leadership position, she's in a much better environment where she can thrive and really assume those, all of that leadership space. Next slide. So on that increased leadership position, and this is what I've decided to highlight a little bit in terms of our digital tools, is one of the mechanisms in which we have opted to try and support women across the country, recognizing that Canada's huge. We have 6 time zones. For those that might not have lived, from where I am in Ottawa, it is shorter for me to fly from Ottawa to London, England to visit Lucy than it is to fly from Ottawa to Vancouver within the same country. It's close, but it's a little bit shorter to go to London, England. So we have an absolutely massive country with very different contexts, and each province has slightly different jurisdictions. So us as a national organization trying to impose, here's how you have to do things, didn't really make sense. So what we did is we used some of the funds that we had got from the Government of Canada to offer what we call Inclusive Community Initiative grants. And so these are local initiatives that the municipality, in partnership with a local women's organization, and that was a requirement of the grant, work collaboratively to implement an activity that would allow for more women, particularly targeting those underrepresented groups within women, to really assume leadership by addressing an opportunity or a barrier from within their community. And I've put 4 of the examples down that really focused on doing a digital version of an intervention to be able to address those particular pieces. Each of those links are hyperlinked. We're not going to go through them because I have very little hope and trust in being able to showcase things, but I do hope people will take the time afterwards to go and check out the different links. But in the case of the City of Hamilton, Reaching for Power, they did a very dynamic interactive session virtually. There was some participation person, but most of it was done virtually. And because they did virtual, they were able to really focus on accessibility in terms of having sign language interpretation, in terms of offering offsets for childcare and elder care, which was an allowable expense within our grants, but really fostering positive environments where they could learn from people who had gone through the process and learn from people who had gone through the process who hadn't necessarily won, because sometimes you have to learn from those who weren't necessarily successful, but it happened in their journey. So that was part of the Reaching for Power initiative. The Federation of PEI Municipalities, PEI is one of our provinces, and they had collaborated with the Coalition for Women of PEI to do a series of virtual campaign schools. And so this was breaking down different modules on fundraising, on reaching your constituents, all sorts of different elements that a woman looking to assume leadership positions through elected office would need to understand from a PEI context. So they had a variety of different campaign schools that were done virtually. So that more information is available through that link. AFMO is the Association Francophone de Municipalités d'Ontario. So a different jurisdiction, a francophone, it's a linguistic minority situation where in Ontario it's predominantly Anglophone speaking, but there are a large number of francophones. So how is it that in a linguistic minority situation, they can also assume those leadership positions? To inspire people, much like our previous speaker, they did a series of videos of women counselors who had, and I think one or two men as well, speaking about the importance of diversity and taking on those leadership positions. And so they had a whole series of Facebook videos that they created, and the link to those videos are there. So I'd hope that you would go check those out as well. If they are in French, they are subtitled in English so you can understand what's happening. And then finally, under the City of Markham, they did a Leading for Change virtual conference. And this was really much targeted at young people and how young people can look at their journey towards leadership and positions of power and be successful and be deliberate about where they want to be going. Really coaching and different modules throughout the day. It was a one-day conference. And so you can check out those particular models. The reason I gave a bunch of different examples is there is no one size fits all to finding those solutions. And I thought people might appreciate seeing the different methodologies that different regions had undertaken. We're also partnering with some specific groups that represent those underrepresented equity deserving groups. So for instance, Operation Black Vote Canada, they did a series of 6 Sunday evening workshops where they targeted different aspects of successful campaigns. For Ontario, I mean, it was a national program, but for Ontario, who just recently had elections, they had 15 women who were in that program, 12 of whom submitted their candidacy for the election that took place in October. Of those 12, 8 actually were elected into office. And so we're really tremendously proud of the effective work that they did on that campaign. And then we have an organization called Proud Politics that we're working with as well. These are supporting those elected officials who are outwardly gay and recognizing that they face a lot of additional challenges from being openly gay in political office. It is legal in Canada. And so having a networking event where people are able to share those experiences and be able to talk to others who will be experiencing those same situations, because often they are the only one on their particular council. So bringing those different people together. And again, over 6 time zones, doing so in a virtual format is considerably easier than doing so in person, where costs become considerably prohibitive. So next slide. So just a couple of lessons from that previous slide. So that local leadership and finding those local examples of leadership, finding those local opportunities really are a key to success, to being able to resonate and inspire those other next generation of leaders that are going to be coming up. One of the pros and cons of digital is that you have to really look at from a manageable time slot. What is going to be, how long can you keep people actively engaged? Bandwidth is definitely an issue. We're having some challenges earlier. So trying to figure out, is it better to do regular multiple sessions? Is it better to do one long day session? How do you break things up? So different considerations to keep in mind. Making deliberate efforts to ensure a safe, inclusive, dynamic spaces. There are issues with Zoom bombing, digital space invasions, that sort of thing. So how do you create a really safe space for these emerging leaders to learn and thrive? So that was definitely a consideration that we've learned from. Virtual events are often less costly, but how can you translate the savings into accessibility and engagement? There's the choice of bringing voices of who have been there, both those who have been successful, but those who might not have been successful, because you can equally learn from both of those experiences. And one of the key learnings in our context was, wherever possible, to offer offsets for childcare, even in a virtual space, because you cannot be 100% present if you have duties and obligations that are perhaps pulling you aside. Next slide.
Stephanie, I wonder if you could try and kind of like round it up now. I don't know how many slides you have left. Sorry, I can't see.
No, this one's actually going to be the main last slide. And this was just more kind of the enabling environment side of things. I wanted to highlight that these are a couple of other digital tools that FCM has created. There's a resource library with its curated list of different tools that exist within Canada that people might find interesting. It's all split up over 9 key categories. There's a gender responsive budgeting course on our LMS, our learning module system, self-directed learning. Anyone here is also welcome to sign up. You just register using that link. We have our Women in Local Government Facebook page. We've done a lot of work too on digital safety, digital citizenship, to be able to keep our women leaders safe, because that is a really key concern here in Canada. So those were kind of that enabling environment side of things that I wanted to flag as the opposite side of the coin. And those were really the key points that I wanted to highlight. I think the next slide is just my contact information. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for walking us through that and for balancing out those different kind of perspectives and explaining a little bit about what you're doing in Canada. And I think for colleagues who have been asking in the chat, we definitely will make all of these presentations available so that you can interrogate some of those links. Maybe come back to Stephanie if you have any questions. But do remember, if you want to ask some questions now, to be thinking about what you want to raise, because I'm going to come and open to questions just very soon. I'm going to just kick off, though, this sort of discussion section of the meeting with 3 short respondents we're going to call on. They're going to be very targeted in their kind of response, and we just want them to the respondents that we're going to introduce in a minute, just to reflect a little bit on some of the applicability of the tools that we've kind of seen on this call, but also thinking about the wider experience of digital tools for supporting women in leadership. Have a little think about how they might be applied and how we could increase their kind of visibility, and then really thinking about where some of the opportunities are to use digital tools, and maybe a little bit, as Stephanie just touched on a little bit as well, some of the challenges that we could face. And we're going to do, I'm going to bring in first Councillor Carleen Benjamin, and I'm going to ask her to do one extra thing, because she actually went through the program within ALGA-J to reflect also, if you don't mind, Councillor Benjamin, on that experience a little bit as well. And Councillor Benjamin is a local government councillor, has been since 2016. She's also a minister in the church, the Jamaica Council Church of God Seventh Day. So she has a very kind of wide experience. And Councillor Benjamin, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is it good morning where some of you are at? No, this afternoon, I must say that this experience that I've had was a very, very, very good one. And I must commend the persons who put this together, Kenisha. I must big up Kenisha. You know, in Jamaica, we say no problem, no problem. And so this engagement, because I start at 0 or minus 0. That means I knew little or nothing about social media. But with this engagement, I am up to, Oshane, can I say I'm at 5? Okay, and I'm still learning. And what I would love for this, out of this engagement here in Jamaica, a manual was developed. So I'd love to see that this manual be sent to all the municipal corporations so that the female councillors can have a hard copy of this, and also a soft copy to be placed on the ALGA-J website. And also that at the AGM, that this manual be presented. And for the monthly newsletter, I would love to see aspect of this social media platform tools, you know, come up every month. All right. I have the experience because I now can post on Instagram. I am getting there. I am not there yet because I have challenges as it relates to funding. You know, money is a huge part of it. And we would love, as female councillors, we'd love that we have somebody, a PR team, to really be there for us, not part-time, but full-time until that time, so that we get up to that mark. And for the training to be more, can we get some more training? Because as I said, I am getting there, but I am not there yet. But the experience have been great. I can now manipulate Instagram, and I have a Facebook page, as I get on it, and manipulate that, as I manipulate TikTok and Twitter, and what's the other one? You name it. So it was a great experience. And I really appreciate this engagement, and I hope that there will be more training for us as female councillors, because we have challenges. You might feel that we don't, because the men, they want to tower over us, but we are coming. You see, I'm sitting in the mayor's chair. Better be careful, because after this training and all of this, I'm coming for this chair. All right. So it was an awesome experience. I love it. And I thank you all. And I just hope that we will have some more of this going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Benjamin. And one little final question just to finish off before I leave you, which is to say, you know, has it changed the way in which you relate to your constituents as a councillor?
I didn't hear that.
Has it changed what you've been able to do for your constituents? Has it actually helped you to do your job better as a councillor?
Oh, all right. All right. First and foremost, it helps me change in my and my message. So sometimes I'll just post with, but this had taught me how to put my message together, because they said.
Brilliant. I'm afraid we're losing you a little bit. So I'm going to go on to our next respondent, who is Ms. Raquel Suku, and she is the coordinator of an online program and curriculum development at the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at the University of the West Indies, and she's based at the St. Augustine campus, which is in Trinidad. And she's worked in the kind of higher education sector for about 25 years in teaching and administration, and specializes in gender studies. So I'm going to hand over, Raquel, to you now, just to give a few of your kind of reflections from that more kind of perspective, from an academic perspective.
Thank you very much, Lucy, and thanks everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I am really excited about all of the tools that I've seen, and just to respond in terms of what Claire said, to reiterate that digital literacy and the digital gender inequality really are necessary areas of focus. And I was glad to see that that was taken into consideration. And I think going forward, definitely there would need to be attention paid to ensure that the women who want to access these tools and the women who want to take up leadership roles in government are able to do so, and they're not kept back by the inequalities that exist in ICT. Also, in terms of what Christopher was speaking about, the generational bridge building between junior and senior elective women is very much related to something that we're looking at the IGDS in terms of mentorship. And I think that's an important area of focus as well. And a lot of these tools, the videos of the women telling their experiences in government are very important and probably could be a jumping off point for the mentorship relationships to be built, whether virtual or more local. Also, in terms of what Stephanie was speaking about in terms of leadership and asynchronous training, there are a lot of concerns about, the availability of people to log on to these trainings, and asynchronous learning is becoming more popular. It makes things more accessible depending on, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in. And it also allows for many women who have their multiple demands of family and work to make sure that they can actually do these things when they want to do them, when they're available to do it. And also you can put the curriculum into very small bites so that people could go on, they could get a 10 minutes to do a particular step. And that is very similar to something we are doing at the IGDS as well in terms of our massive open online course. We currently have a course called Powerful Women and the Principles of Feminist Transformational Leadership on the Future Learn platform. And that is what, it's available asynchronously, and it allows people to go on at their convenience and complete the course within 3 weeks. So I think the asynchronous model is extremely important for the training that you all are doing.
Thanks so much for that. And I think, you make two incredibly important points, obviously around digital inequality and being very mindful of that, but also really thinking about how you deliver the training to make it something which is accessible to the people that really need that kind of support and that kind of the focus. So thank you very much for kind of like raising those 2 points. And I'm sure everyone will be interested that the details of that course that Raquel just mentioned at the university is linked in the chat. Do also look that up as well. And my final kind of speaker who I'm going to bring in here as a respondent is a colleague of ours from the Commonwealth Local Government Forum. Her name's Karabais Taoba. She's based in Suva in Fiji, and she manages our office in the Pacific. So Karabais, I'm going to just ask you for some quick reflections. And whilst Karabais is speaking, if you could have a little think, if you have any questions or issues you want to raise, I'm going to open it to the floor next. So please, Karabais, over to you. To maybe bridge us to the Pacific. Do we still have Karabais? Have we lost her? Karabais, do you want to come in? Here we go. Karabais?
Are you asking me now?
I'm
Lucy?
asking you to go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Thank you, Lucy. I'm sorry I can't put on my video on because of the problem with internet here. So I want to start by thanking everybody, those presenters who have done the presentation this morning. I think it's very interesting, and it applies to the Pacific, especially the case that was in Canada. We have the same case that you understand that we have about 10 member countries in the Pacific that we're looking after. And all those 10 countries have differences in terms of how they're exposed to social media, the remote.
I think we're losing you, Karabais, I'm afraid. I wonder whether you might be able to kind of log on and log back in again. Can you hear us? I think what I might do is open it up if anyone else wants to come in with a question or a comment. And when Karabais is back online, oh, there we go. Hello?
Learning. And some countries, for example, in Kiribati, where I am now, the internet is very slow, and sometimes it's very unreliable to connect to you, because in the office it's not.
Karabais, I'm really
Lucy,
sorry
I
that
can't hear. I'm disconnected.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to maybe see if Karabais can rejoin again. But I wonder whether there's anybody on the call who would like to either ask a question or make a comment or share something that you're working on. But I think this really demonstrates the reality of one of the challenges that we've talked about, which is very much the internet connection and the capacity to be able to join online tools and use online tools for training. I think it's a very real challenge in our work in the Pacific, and I think in other places as well, and other colleagues have raised it too. And she's in Kiribati at the moment. So I wonder if there's anyone who would like to come in or has a kind of like a question or a comment that they'd like to make, and we'll see if Karabais can rejoin. I don't think I'm seeing any hands. Oh, yes, I am. Carleen, please, Councillor Benjamin, and then Dimity.
Thank you very much. I think all of these experiences should be streamlined. And I want to tell you something. My image has changed since this experience. I need you to take down that picture that I see you post up, go to my Instagram page and take off a picture and put it up. Thank you. I've gone past that stage.
Thank you so much, Councillor Benjamin. Dimity, please, over to you. You're on mute.
Sorry, I've really enjoyed this session. Thank you so much, Lucy and everyone. One of the things that I'd like to offer people is Christopher and others have talked about enabling environments. So one of the things we've got at the moment is a Facebook page called Pacific Women's Network. It's now 204,000 women of followers of that Facebook page. And it's about creating a wallpaper of consciousness that of women and girls in leadership positions in whatever career. So the whole basis is careers have no gender. So the more that you share on Facebook pictures or stories about women in local government, what we do is just aggregate and repost. So I think that's one of the things that's really powerful is to work on the demand side, that as a wallpaper of consciousness, it's absolutely natural for women to be in leadership positions in the community or what other career they want, including local government. So I think the more we share posts with each other and aggregate and reshare them, that builds this whole consciousness that yes, it is perfectly natural and appropriate and right for women to be involved. So if you want to check out the Pacific Women's Network Facebook page, you'll see at the top a beautiful photo of two women walking down the street in Bougainville in the Pacific. And just a huge wave out to people from Raki, Suva, and Lautoka. But I think that's a way we can support each other, resharing our Facebook posts to build that consciousness and build that sort of demand. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dimity. I'm going to bring in next Kanisha, Kanisha Gordon. Kanisha, over to you. You're on mute. Kanisha, can you hear us? We're not hearing you, Kanisha. I don't know whether there's a problem with your sound. I wonder whether anyone else wants to come in here. I wonder whether anyone from the Pacific would like to kind of share. And Raquel, maybe I'll bring you in next. And if anyone else wants to come in from the Pacific particularly, we'd love to hear from you. Raquel, please.
Yes, I just wanted to add that I realize that some of the approaches are gender responsive, which is very good. We're also seeing a lot of projects that are adopting now a gender transformative approach. And I thought that that would be something that you all might consider looking at, because gender transformative approaches actually challenge those traditional gender roles and stereotypes and promote the acceptance of women moving into more of the public sphere. So it can change the attitudes of both men and women, and also produce more progressive gender roles and gender identities being accepted in the society, and it couldn't promote more participation. So I just wanted to add that as well.
I think that's very important, and particularly I think, you know, for an organization like ours where we're bringing together local governments, I think it's very important that we go forward together in that regard, 100%.
Great.
Kanisha, are you trying to come in? I can see your hand is up. We're not hearing you. And I can't see any other hands that are up. I'm going to give everyone just a last chance if anyone else wants to come in. Go on, someone from the Pacific. Come on, one of our partners in the Pacific. We would love to hear from you. And maybe you've been working on a program around supporting women in leadership. We'd be very, very interested if you do want to share. If not, I'm going to try one last time for Kanisha, because she's just trying to raise her hand again. But I think there is a problem with the sound. Kanisha? Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't go there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now hand over to my colleague, Sandra Singh, Sandra, who's just going to try and sort of pull a few of the key kind of strands from the conversation together. And then I'm going to hand over to Janine to say a few words as well. So Sandra Singh, do you want to just come in now and just reflect on some of the things that we've heard? Sandra.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary General. And discernibly from this dialogue among the women in local government, and indeed the women from academia and various professions, administrative and otherwise, that support the local government system, we have been able to generate a discussion that straddles the opportunities and the challenges that relate to digital technology and in general, the virtual world. What I was able to note from the dialogue is that we have identified several opportunities in the realm of capacity building, with the privilege of being able to, of having self-paced learning. We've also been able to explore the virtues of digital technology in the area of political campaigning, fundraising, and a bit able, as Christopher has quite succinctly put it, place it in the context also of marketing, perhaps social marketing as a political strategy in campaigning. We've also recognized from what we've heard from the various presenters and our colleagues who have shared their experiences that the digital world and this opportunity for of having been exposed to digital tools could enhance their representative role in as representatives of the people in a participatory democracy. More so, we've heard instances where in a participatory democracy, there was the opportunity outlined for information dissemination. And we heard also about the opportunity to project one's image in a political environment. So associated with the image issues, we've been cautioned by Christopher that there is reason to be cautioned about how you project your image, and therefore guidelines have been developed as a resource by the Association of Local Government Authorities in Jamaica. Guidelines exist that would take you along that route of protecting your image and guiding you along the kind of information and the way it's presented on social media platforms. So in the realm of self-development, we've heard about the capacity development issues. We've heard from academia about the design of these tools to make them manageable in bite-sized amounts, as well as presenting the advantage of learning opportunities, not only being self-paced, but convenient at a time that allows, that would allow our women, our active participants, to be able to balance their work, family, and often other professional lives, because we know that in local government, we have got representatives and across the board, both male and female, who balance careers with their representative role in local government politics. But of course, our women have and even sometimes additional roles as carers in a family environment where women are seen as nurturers. And that is a reality for us in the Caribbean. And I'm sure the experience is also shared in the Pacific and in Canada as well. We have examined also some of the commonalities in terms of challenges, and some of those were quite demonstrable today in terms of internet connectivity and bandwidth, and that is a reality that we would have to factor into our approaches. We have heard also that this requires a certain measure of continuous learning, because the social media landscape is continuously shifting, and we are to be mindful of that requirement for continuous learning and self-development in the world, in the digital world. So we got a very significant message as well out of the Pacific, and maybe I could close on that note that careers have no gender. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for that and for summing up so succinctly. And you know, one of the things that my colleague Karabais, who started speaking, has written in the chat, which I'm sure you can all see, is that the main challenge is poor connection. That some countries can still participate, and the need to educate social media digital literacy of most of the council, and suggesting how important it is to focus on young women, young girls who are familiar with using ICT and computers to start it off. So that very much, I think, you know, mirrors exactly what you were saying, Sandra. And I think for me, the other thing which really pulls this together is, I think, the kind of value of, as you say, continuous learning, but also the value of networking and mentoring, and actually supporting each other in the process of capacity building, but also more around empowerment of women in leadership. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Janine Xavier-Cross, who is just going to give us a little bit of a closeout. Janine.
Before I close out, I think, Lucy, there was a question being asked about if there is a calendar of upcoming conferences for women in politics, whether they be online or in person.
We haven't got a kind of like a full calendar on our website, but we do make available information as it comes up. It is something we probably need to do a little bit more of, but we do have a Facebook page, a Women in Local Government page, which I would encourage all of you to join. It's a really good way to keep in touch with our work, but also to keep in touch with each other. And I think it's really helpful if you can promote that also actively to other colleagues in your organization, so that, you know, we really broaden that network. And Janine has very kindly put the link into the chat, so you can just click straight on it and join if you haven't already joined. And we will then try and make a bit more that connection with Dimity and the Pacific Women's page to make sure that we're also forwarding on interesting posts, because I think, as we all know, you know, the strength of those social networks is actually being able to forward on and make information as readily and as widely available as we can. So please do use the Facebook page and our website to look at events and activities as they're upcoming. And we're very much a membership organization, so we're driven by our members. So activities are very much things that come from our members. So if you want to suggest an activity, or if you think we should be doing something and we're not doing enough, do please contact us and we can look at how we can respond. Thanks, Janine. Go ahead.
And pretty much, Lucy, you kind of spoke to all the directions we wanted to go in this next section here, which is talking about the next steps. The next steps really is about trying to make sure we disseminate the messages of the digital tools, disseminate the tools as widely as possible. And we're so grateful that you were able to make the time today to be a part of this session, and more so to interact and to put forward your thoughts on the usefulness of the tools, and perhaps even providing new directions for us to move as we continue to kind of look for work to enhance the work that we support you with this, the digital tools. So I want to encourage you really to go down that route of social media. Look up the YouTube channel for Commonwealth Local Government Forum page, because we will be posting the videos from this session, and we have another session coming up for Africa and Asia on the 30th. They will both be on the YouTube page as well as on our CLGF website, which is www.clgf.org.uk. We'll post it again in the chat. And then I want to also encourage you you can also attend the second seminar if you'd like. It will have different perspectives from other respondents from the African Asian region. I mean, the time zones are different, but you are welcome to come. Just sign up and register with the same registration link that you were provided before. We also want to continue to encourage you to connect. So the Women in Local Government network group, the Facebook group, which is in the chat. We also want to encourage you to follow CLGF on Twitter. We have 3 to 4 different Twitter account, the main CLGF account, which is there, and you can see it, CLGF_news. And then there are region-specific pages, which may share very, very useful information on women in local government, on advancements in local government, specific to your regions. So I do encourage you to please, if you are on Twitter, do connect with those pages. If you're not on Twitter, join Twitter. I think one of the messages coming through from this entire seminar is that we do need to put women out there more. We need to be more visible. And part of it is also being more visible in social media, Twitter, putting out your messages, putting out your voices, advocating for more gender equality and advocating for more social inclusion across the board. So do join Twitter, do join and create a LinkedIn account if you can. That shows the professionalism of the women across the regions, across the Commonwealth. We need to continue to raise the bar and showcase to the world that we are, it's a very professional group coming out of local government, So do join. And in terms of the Women in Local Government Network, share your experiences using the hashtag COMWLG. And we just to also finally say to you that there are focal points in the local government associations across the Commonwealth that have been identified, the individuals in each of these organizations that have been identified as like a direct link into Commonwealth Local Government Forum. Find out who your focal point is and encourage them to share the messages with the networks, encourage them to kind of even interact more with CLGF to make sure we kind of focus work to your needs. And of course, you heard from Sandra just now. She is the regional manager for the Caribbean. We also you heard from Caribais, who's the regional manager for the Pacific. I am responsible for the networks. We are some of your very key staff to support you. So get to know us, reach out as much as you can, as much as you need to get more interacted with the tools, or if you need to get more information, share and come and approach us. We are open to hearing from you. And finally, just to say, we at CLGF continue to advocate for whatever issues come out of these forums. So all the discourse, the dialogues today, we will be taking your priorities, your concerns, your issues. We take those issues to the forums where they take the messages to the Commonwealth and to those places where you may not be able to come through the door. So we are so grateful for your interaction today. We will take the messages that you've come through here and shared, and we will, in an upcoming session, we have one on the 1st of December. There's a session on GAP 3, which is about gender mainstreaming across the Commonwealth. We will be taking some of the tools that were shared here today, as well as the messages to that forum. So that is it really from me. Again, do check out the pages. We will post all of the digital tools on our website. I will share the links in the chat, and I will also send them to you via email as well. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience. And back to you, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Janine, and what a lovely way to kind of close out the meeting. I'd like to say thanks to everybody for joining us today. I'd really like to thank all of our speakers for some absolutely fantastic insights into the exciting work that is being done around the Commonwealth. And I'd really like to thank everybody in the audience who have responded so incredibly positively. And I think I'd like to leave just with two short thoughts. One is that I think we all know in the local government world that if you don't see women in local government, we know that young people, young girls particularly, are not going to want to be part of local government. So you are role models, and you are really driving, you are really, standing for that and encouraging more women into the sector. And so whatever we can do to support you, we really want to do that. And I think the second thing I would say is that there's also a huge opportunity for us to ensure that women can really be the best councillors that they can be. Because, the numbers is the first thing. Having women through the doors, sitting in council, taking decisions, engaging and taking the views of their citizens into council. But the second thing is making sure that we can translate that into action and change on the ground for the kind of inclusive and gender equal societies that we're also trying to generate. So I think, you know, I leave you really with those kind of two small kind of like reflections. A huge thank you to everybody on the call, and just a very, very final thing to say that probably in the next day or so, a little email will be popping into your inbox asking you for your reflections on this session. And that's not because, you know, that's because we're really keen to do it better next time. You know, we want to learn, we want to do this better, and we want to target this to make sure it's something relevant to you. So that's also another opportunity in a day or so when you've reflected on the session to think, it would have been good if they'd thought about that. So that evaluation form is going to drop into your inbox. We super look forward to hearing from you. And I'd really like to just wrap it up with a big thank you. Thanks to everyone. Thanks, everyone.